message is that we'll be watching you.
Through tears, Greta Thunberg on Monday, the 23rd of September, joined the United Nations Climate Action Summit, demanded an urgent measures to stop environment catastrophe.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight? You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspects of equity and climate justice. They also rely on my generation sucking hundreds of billions of tons of your CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely exist. So a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us, we who have to live with the consequences. To have a 67% chance of staying below a 1.5 degrees of global temperature rise, the best odds given by the IPCC, the world had 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit back on January 1st, 2018. Today, that figure is already down to less than 350 gigatons. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today, because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us, but the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you. We will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now, is where we draw the line. The world is waking up, and change is coming whether you like it or not.
On that same day, the World Meteorological Organization warned that rapid international cooperation is required in order to avoid the irreversible impacts brought about by global warming. According to the newly released WMO report entitled The Global Climate in 2015 to 2019, the past 5-year period has been the warmest half-decade on record. It says the average global temperature has increased by 1.1 degrees Celsius since the pre-industrial period and has risen by 0.2 degrees Celsius compared to the period between 2011 and 2015.
Comparing to the previous 5-year period, which is the purpose of this report, we can see that is 0.2 degrees centigrade warmer than 2011-2015. If you want to compare the last 5-year period with all the 5 years period in the past, the current 5-year period is the warmest ever recorded 5-year period.
The report also shows that sea level rises, long-term and large-scale heat waves, as well as massive forest fires have become even more extreme during the past 5 years. The scientific community has largely come to the realization that the world is now at a dangerous climate tipping point.
The actual outcome at the end of the next 5 years is more complex than simple calculation. It's also the interannual variability like El Nino event, which trying to boost the temperature even higher, or the cooling of the Pacific, which is called La Nina event, which can try to lower the temperature. So basically, we are on track to reach at least 1.2, 1.3 degrees centigrade in the next 5 years.
The report also points out that extreme weather has had an increasingly severe impact on social and economic development and the natural environment. It concludes that the international society must conduct fundamental social and economic transitions quickly in areas such as land utilization and energy, so as to avoid possible irreversible impact brought by global warming.
This is something to keep in mind, that not only are these statistics alarming, they dispel any false sense of security that maybe will muddle through this. It's actually looking on the high side of rapidity and the rates of increase and decrease of the various indicators. The current nationally determined contributions submitted by the parties to the Paris Agreement would have to be 3 times as ambitious as they currently are to meet the 2-degree target, and 5 times as ambitious as they currently are to meet the 1.5-degree target. And that assumes, of course, that these pledges are actually implemented, and they aren't merely intentions, but they would actually be put in place.
Over the past year, the United Nations Secretary General has called for no new coal plants to be built after 2020, urged a phase-out of fossil fuel subsidies, and asked countries to map out how to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050.
Nature is angry, and we fool ourselves if we think we can fool nature, because nature always strikes back, and around the world, nature is striking back with fury. Someone asked me the other day, doesn't all of this make you despair? My answer was a clear and resounding no. I am hopeful, and I am hopeful because of you. This is not a climate talk summit. We have had enough talk. This is not a climate negotiating summit, because we don't negotiate with nature. This is a climate action summit. Young people, above all, young people are here providing solutions, insisting on accountability and demanding urgent action. They are right. My generation has failed in its responsibility to protect our planet. That must change.
While some countries have made progress, some of the biggest emitting countries remain far behind, as wildfires, heat waves, and record temperatures have provided glimpses of the devastation that could lie in store in a warmer world. Over 100 business leaders delivered concrete actions to align with the Paris Agreement targets and speed up the transition from the grey to green economy, including asset owners holding over $2 trillion in assets. Many smaller countries, including small island developing states and least developed countries, were among those who made the biggest pledges, despite the fact that they have contributed the least to the problem. The Paris Climate Agreement will enter a crucial implementation phase next year, after another round of negotiations in Chile in December. Pledges made so far under the agreement are nowhere near enough to avert catastrophic warming, scientists say, and last year carbon emissions hit a record high. That's our program for the week. Thank you for watching our inbox set file at channelstv.com. It's available for comments and questions. You can also view this episode and other episodes of the program by visiting our YouTube channel, youtube.com/channelsweb. Do click the playlist menu and then click F-File. From me, Ayola Kasim, and the crew here in Lagos, it's bye for now.